Carlos was very excited to start her first year of teaching. She taught English at La Granada High School located in Los Angeles. The school was considered a low-income school because over 90% of the students received free lunches and 60% of the students' first language was not English. The moment she entered the classroom, there was chaos. Students were shouting among each other. Students were trying to play around with physical acts. It was obvious that this group of students needed discipline. Mrs. Carlos set clear classroom rules and procedures. Some of the classroom rules were raise your hand before you speak, keep your hands to yourself, and respect your school. These classroom rules and procedures would help the atmosphere of the classroom in a positive way. Mrs. Carlos got the opportunity to get her to know her students by asking them questions about their culture. Mrs. Carlos learned that her students came from all over the world. For example, some students came from Guatemala, Paraguay, Brazil, Mexico, Africa, and the Philippines. The students were also able to get to know each other by role-playing classroom rules. They would practice among each other, raising their hands before they're going to speak, and also respecting each other's space. Mrs. Carlos observed that her students needed more practice writing. She had an assessment, and the students scored low on sentence structure. Mrs. Carlos gave each of her students a notebook with their name on it. The students were able to practice their writing skills by entering a daily log in their journals. The entry had to include something positive or something negative that had happened that day. Mrs. Carlos said that her students, that each individual has a different story. The students wrote on their journals and were graded. Mrs. Carlos was able to read the student's story only if the student wanted it to be read. Mrs. Carlos had the opportunity to read all of her students' journal. A student wrote, for example, how hard it was to study at home when there was violence in their home. Another student wrote how their parents worked so hard for their family to meet their needs. In addition, students were able to learn about their story, and they were able to grow academically in their writing structure. And it was a good way for them to learn about themselves and grow academically.